In the late 1800s, Captain George Lawson, a well-seasoned sailor from Maine, stumbled upon a peculiar object while on a voyage through the Caribbean. The islanders warned him of a cursed doll, Samuel, said to contain the spirit of a man who had been cursed for practicing black magic. Captain Lawson dismissed it as local superstition, but, intrigued by the doll's eerie aura, decided to bring it home as a gift for his grandson, Charlie. Upon Captain Lawson's return to the quaint coastal town of Blackwater in Maine, he presented the doll to young Charlie. Samuel was unlike any toy from that era, with glassy, penetrating eyes and a mischievous, almost knowing smirk. Charlie was captivated by Samuel and took the doll everywhere with him, talking to it as if it were his closest friend. However, the Lawson family began to notice strange occurrences almost immediately. A week after Captain Lawson gifted Samuel to Charlie, Captain Lawson fell ill unexpectedly. He had been healthy, yet within days, he was bedridden, plagued by vivid nightmares and delusions. He'd ramble about, dark eyes watching, and plead to be rid of the curse. Before he passed, he warned his family to be wary of Samuel, uttering his final words in terror. Don't let him in. After Captain Lawson's death, things grew darker in the Lawson household. Charlie's once bright and joyful personality transformed. He became withdrawn, fixated on Samuel, talking to him in whispers that left his parents uneasy. The family's servants reported hearing two distinct voices from Charlie's room. One, a familiar child's voice, and the other a deep, unsettling tone. No one could explain it, but each incident left the house filled with a tense, unshakable dread. The first major incident occurred one evening when the Lawsons returned from a town gathering. The once pristine home was in complete disarray. Expensive furniture lay shattered, walls bore deep scratches, and items were strewn across the floor as if a storm had torn through. In the center of the chaos, Charlie sat calmly with Samuel on his lap, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Charlie," his mother gasped. "What happened here?" "Samuel did it," Charlie replied, his voice eerily calm. "He doesn't like it when you leave him alone." From that moment, the family began to fear the doll. Whenever Charlie was reprimanded or things went wrong, he blamed Samuel, insisting it was Samuel who acted out. As the months wore on, the family began to believe that something darker was indeed at play. Charlie's parents couldn't bear to confront the supernatural possibility directly, but they grew fearful of the doll and of the child they had once known so well. Over the years, things only got worse. Charlie's mother began to feel as though she was constantly being watched. Whether she was in the kitchen, tidying up the living room, or even lying in bed, she would feel the prickling sensation of eyes on her. She often found Samuel sitting in the most peculiar spots, his glass eyes glistening with a chilling lifelike quality. She told herself it was just her imagination, but she couldn't shake the feeling that those glassy eyes held a dark, malevolent spirit within them. One night, she confided her fears to her husband, who dismissed her concerns as nonsense. But the following evening, he too felt the creeping sensation. While watching television, he caught a glimpse of something moving from the corner of his eye. When he turned, he saw Samuel sitting silently at the end of the couch, facing him with a stare that seemed almost aware. Samuel's presence became a silent but powerful force in their lives, one they could neither explain nor escape. The final straw came when they found Charlie's little sister, Lily, in her room late at night, sitting on the floor with Samuel. Her eyes were wide with terror, and when asked what had happened, she whispered, "Samuel doesn't like me." Terrified for their family, Charlie's parents locked Samuel away in the attic, hoping that distance might dampen whatever force was at play. Years passed, and Charlie's childhood fears seemed to dissipate, but his obsession with Samuel never waned. After his parents passed away, Charlie inherited the family mansion, and in his loneliness, he sought comfort in Samuel. Despite being a grown man, he carried the doll around with him, speaking to it in the same whispered tones as he had as a child. He married briefly, But his wife quickly became unnerved by the strange bond between Charlie and Samuel. She'd often find the doll perched on the foot of their bed at night or propped up in the dining room, staring across the table at her with its unnerving glassy eyes. Arguments erupted frequently over Samuel, and eventually the strain on the marriage proved too much. She left, and Charlie was left alone in the mansion with his only companion, the cursed doll. As the years went by, Charlie grew increasingly isolated, even unstable. He took up painting, finding solace in it, but Samuel was always by his side. It was as if the doll had become a physical extension of him. The servants and townsfolk avoided Charlie, whispering of madness and misfortune. And then, one winter night, Charlie passed away alone, his heart failing as he lay next to Samuel. The mansion lay vacant for several years until the Rutger family, a couple with a young daughter, Emily, moved in. Delighted by the size and historical charm of the house, they felt they'd secured a rare gem. But they soon discovered the house's dark past, as whispers from locals painted a picture of madness and supernatural horror. Dismissing the stories, the Rutgers settled in, intent on making the house a home. One day, while playing in the attic, Emily stumbled upon an old, dusty box. Inside was Samuel. She was immediately fascinated by the doll and brought it downstairs, much to her parent unease. That night, Emily set Samuel on a chair in her room. But as she drifted to sleep, she was awoken by a soft, unsettling whisper close to her ear. "Emily," the voice hissed. Terrified, she looked around, but no one was there. Only Samuel sat in the chair, his glassy eyes fixed on her. The Rutgers began experiencing strange phenomena almost immediately. Emily's parents often heard footsteps pacing above them, though no one was upstairs. Objects would vanish and reappear in strange places, and they both felt an inexplicable sense of dread whenever they were near the doll. Emily began having nightmares, each more vivid and terrifying than the last. She confided in her parents, insisting that Samuel whispered to her, telling her dark secrets and making horrible promises. As the weeks wore on, the family grew desperate. Emily's mother finally suggested they return the doll to the attic, but the doll seemed to resist. Every time they locked him away, they would later find him in Emily's room, placed just so, as if waiting for her. Desperate to protect their daughter, they called in priests, mediums, anyone who might be able to rid them of Samuel's curse. But each attempt only seemed to strengthen the doll's grip on their lives. For 20 years, the Rutgers endured the torment of living with Samuel. They heard the whispers, saw the shadows, and endured the doll's malevolent influence on their family. But one night, the activity reached a fever pitch. The house shook with the sound of unearthly laughter. Lights flickered, and Samuel's whispers filled every room. That night, the family finally abandoned the mansion, leaving all their belongings behind. They donated Samuel to a museum, praying that putting him on display might weaken his power. Yet even in the museum, Samuel's terror continued. Visitors reported cameras malfunctioning, sudden illness, and strange occurrences around the doll. Some even claimed that Samuel's expression would change, as if reacting to their presence. To this day, Samuel sits in a locked glass case at the museum, his unsettling gaze watching every visitor who dares approach. It's said that if you wish to see him, you must first ask for permission. Those who don't may suffer his wrath, a string of misfortunes, accidents, or worse. Thousands of letters arrive each year, filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness from those who've dared to disrespect Samuel. Perhaps it's just a legend, or perhaps the spirit of a cursed man truly resides within the doll. But if you ever find yourself at the museum, staring into Samuel's glassy eyes, remember, ask for permission, and whatever you do, don't look away.